Hello, Western Civilization 104. This is the final week that we have in this class. And, many of you struggled a lot, and you've done wonderfully. And some of you didn't get to do what you wanted to do. Well, this is normal in a semester. I'm talking about in terms of the quality or the time put into a class. So I understand all of those variables. I am happy always to have all of you with me to go through this journey and to explore history and to see how it affects everything that takes place now. And it's kind of funny. I just want to say, there's always that little cliche, if you don't learn from the past, you won't do things right in the future, or blah, 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 or whatever. Well, I also want to say this. Don't think that a historian is a prophet. Every year, and there's certain years in particular, where you'll see an event or a chain of events, and you kind of feel like everybody should have saw it coming, but the historians got it wrong. What history teaches is that the future isn't doesn't appear to be predetermined or on some scientific pattern in which you could predict what's happening. There are certain people who pay attention to the history of certain places and see what's going on in the contemporary world, and they can give out warnings or feedback into like, hey, this is where things are at. It's not. And then if something kind of blows up, they're not surprised. But the nature in which things occur or not is just, So here we are, Western civilization, thinking about the rise of China. So many things can just go all over the place in different directions. It should be known that the majority of Western scholars and thinkers did not think the Soviet Union was going to fall. Not in the way that it occurred. And look, you look at the Shah in Iran, and a lot of money was put into that regime, a huge secret police force, and then almost overnight the whole thing just implodes on itself, the whole regime. And now I'm just bringing this up to say that that is what history shows us, is that it's not so easy to predict everything that's taking place. So it's interesting that you were able to look at this documentary and also think about legacy. Now, legacy is something that I think we have something more grounded to go into, right? To think about, like, what is the legacy of a particular civilization? What does it have to offer? What is it about it that we find inspiring? I just went to Angkor Wat here in Cambodia, and wow, it's mind-blowing. Just as mind-blowing as you'd expect. I went to the spots of Tomb Raider, very exciting. But here was this massive, incredible civilization that was basically forgot. Nobody was paying attention. Nature grew over it, and then now it's a major tourist attraction here in this area. And again, so here's my whole point. One decade, one century, one whatever. Who's to say and who's to know what regime, which kingdom, which country is going to be here and then later come down to here or be brought over here. So it should keep us humble, keep us alert, and realize the power of knowing and understanding as much of the past as possible, and having that enrich our lives now, but also maybe help us think more carefully about the kind of politics that we choose to participate in. Whatever the case, I covered Western civilization. I've been in countries that have benefited from aspects of it and also suffered terribly from our civilization. As I've mentioned before, I have many Native American friends that I made in the Northwest of the United States who feel the negative repercussions directly of U.S. Western civilization. And at the same time, they're still benefiting from aspects of it. They're still friends with people like me and others. But again, we should be humbled, and we should think about the weight of history on our moral sensibilities. And, people aren't learning from the past. They're not. And, communal violence and people fracturing into hardcore identities at the expense of somebody else. This is still alive and well in the world. And, I don't know. I'm just going to keep rambling on right now, I guess. Look, I just want to say this one last thing. The exam is pretty straightforward. You can see that it's 25 points. I will not answer. Some people are going to want to say, Mr. Pollock, can I afford not to take the exam? I will not answer that. I will not encourage you not to take the exam. But if you look at the math, if you look at your points, and you feel like you can afford to not take it, then it's not going to hurt my feelings. If you're going to do that, go to the the link where you're going to put the exam in, and then just say, "Hey, Mr. Pollock, I'm not going to take the exam," and I'll put the 0 in. And if you do that quickly, I'll put a 0 in, and if the grade turns out afterwards to not look like what you wanted, as long as it's by Wednesday, so it's got to be turned in by Wednesday, not Thursday this week, then you can still turn it, you can change your mind as long as it's in by Wednesday, by midnight, okay? So that's all I have to say, and hopefully we'll be in touch again in the future.